Have you ever stopped and asked yourself what music is most important to you? Well, recently I've been grappling with that exact internal debate. After some grueling deliberation and hard-fought decisions, here are the 5 albums that changed my life. How's it going, everyone? Miles Dampierre here. Like video games and horror movies, music has been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. Even at a very early age, I have fond memories of my dad introducing me to bands like the Misfits, Dead Kennedys, Butthole Surfers, and so many other iconic punk bands. My mom, who is a humble yet amazing singer, would also belt out classics from Janis Joplin, Jewel, and other powerhouse vocalists. I was even named after legendary jazz trumpeter Miles Davis. So it's understandable that music would be a vital part of who I am. Over the years, I've listened to thousands of albums from a staggering assortment of genres. I'm constantly looking for fresh, innovative sounds that subvert my expectations. In other words, I'm looking for the weirdest music I can find. But where did my preference for strange and abrasive music come from? Well, I'm gonna try my damnedest to highlight the 5 albums that best represent my eclectic taste in music. But before I share my picks, I want to hear from you. What are the 5 albums that are most important to you? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you're a fan of my content and want to show your support, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's talk about some absolutely incredible pieces of music. It's only fitting that we start with one of the most transformative albums in my history with music. Mr. Bungle's self-titled album, which released way back in 1991, was wildly ahead of its time. From chaotic genre mashups including thrash metal, jazz, and lounge, to the incorporation of pop culture samples from movies and video games, my first listen to the debut full-length from Mr. Bungle blew my mind. The unpredictable energy of the album was infectious, and every single song felt like a roller coaster ride, veering dangerously close to flying off the tracks. Standout tunes like My Ass Is on Fire, Quote Unquote, and Carousel powerfully demonstrate the unfiltered creativity of the band, and even decades later, it continues to be a staple in my music rotation. While my first introduction to Mike Patton's impressive vocal range was on the amazing album The Real Thing from Faith No More, which is another must-listen album that almost made this list, Mr. Bungle embraced ideals aggressively outside the structure of traditional pop music. This was a passionate band that had no interest in pandering for mainstream success, and simply focused on creating unforgivingly weird music unlike anything else. The self-titled album from Mr. Bungle shot me barreling down a music rabbit hole I still haven't emerged from. The next album on my list is definitely more radio-friendly than Mr. Bungle, but still manages to celebrate its eccentric identity. Dead Man's Party from Oingo Boingo is a delightfully quirky collection of songs that exemplifies why Danny Elfman is such a legend in the music industry. The opening track, Just Another Day, sets the euphoric tone of the experience in a massive way, and shows a tremendous evolution from previous releases like the cult hit Only a Lad. While singles like Weird Science and Dead Man's Party would secure noteworthy commercial success for the band, explosive tracks like No One Lives Forever showcase the signature sound of Oingo Boingo. Their experimental injection of unconventional instruments and song structures in pop rock made them one of the most fascinating music acts of the late 80s. It's hard for me to claim that Dead Man's Party is my all-time favorite Oingo Boingo album. That would have to go to the bonkers Nothing to Fear. But it's definitely the one that solidified my love for the band and furthered my pursuit of uncovering the strangest music available. Despite its modern correlation with Halloween and the macabre, Dead Man's Party is a year-round banger. If you're a fan of metal, chances are you've heard the phrase gateway band. This term refers to the band or album who turned you on to the wild and wonderful world of heavy music. My gateway album was System of a Down's self-titled debut. After catching the eerie music video for Spiders on MTV, just to date myself a little bit here, a good pal burned me a copy of this 1998 metal album, and it completely changed what I thought music could be. As an angsty preteen, the aggression and raw production of the album instantly resonated with me. The iconic duo Serj Tankian and Darren Malakian sang, screamed, and squealed their way through 13 exceptional tracks in ways I never thought possible. Songs like Suggestions, War, and Peephole still confidently stand as highlights from the band's remarkable discography. Toxicity may have been the album that launched the band to superstardom, but their self-titled debut is the one that had me fiending for more metal music. After System of a Down, the floodgates were blown wide open, and I spent years listening to metal from every subgenre imaginable. As an aspiring guitarist, one particular subgenre became my personal favorite, thrash metal. And that's in no small part to Megadeth's debut album, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. After infamously getting fired from Metallica for being an enormous asshole, Dave Mustaine took that spite and anger and released one of the most crushing thrash albums of the 80s. The blistering speed on tracks like Last Rites, Love to Death, and Looking Down the Cross inspired me to shred like no other, and even gave me brief delusions of becoming one of the greatest guitar players of all time. I owe a large part of my love of guitar and playing live music to Megadeth and their early albums. Killing Is My Business was even a major influence on the tracks I wrote for my Seattle death metal band, A City Screams in Terror. Ah, look at little Miles headbang. So cheers to Dave Mustaine for channeling his endless bitterness into something constructive. Like many who've dabbled in the world of heavy metal, my tastes only grew more aggressive as the years went on. My love for thrash eventually evolved into a love of death metal, and one of the best death metal albums of all time just so happens to be Monolith of Inhumanity by Decapitation. While I definitely appreciate the novelty of bands like Cannibal Corpse that mostly scream about gratuitous gore and murder, Monolith of Inhumanity fostered my admiration for metal with a message. Decapitation isn't afraid to slam headfirst into the ugly realities of the human condition and the current state of the world. And in my opinion, there's no better outlet for pent-up social and political frustrations than some good old-fashioned death metal. There's something genuinely cathartic about screaming along to tracks like A Living, Breathing Piece of Defecating Meat and The Carbon Stampede. It won't be to everyone's liking, but if you want some thought-provoking music that pushes boundaries, I'd highly recommend Decapitation. Whittling this list down to 5 albums was incredibly challenging. I went back and forth on my picks for weeks before settling on these selections. I'm confident in my choices, but I still wanted to take a minute to drop some honorable mentions that almost made the list. I won't be sharing much in the way of specifics for these albums, but every single one deserves a shout out. First up, we have Alice in Chains' Dirt. Next, we have Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. Then it's Primus's debut, Frizzle Fry. Next, we have Rage Against the Machine's self-titled album. Then we have Igor's Nostril, followed by As I Lay Dying, Shadows Are Security. Then Job for a Cowboy's Doom EP. Next, David Bowie, The Outside. Then we have 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. And finally, we have Mastodon, Crack the Sky. There are so many more influential albums I'd be happy to discuss, but I think this paints a pretty fair picture of the music I continue to love even years later. What are your 5 picks for the albums that changed your life? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for everything you do. Keep that passion burning, and we'll catch you in the next video.